You arrive at a dark beach at 3 in the morning. In front of you is a bronze bell. Nobody is forcing you to stay, and yet most men around you will choose pain over touching you. What you're about to find out is why that trident weighs more than any bullet you've ever fired at you. I'm Obscurophiles, and if this is your first time here, subscribe, because we go where most channels won't. You arrive in Coronado, California, with a shaved head and nothing else. 185 men stand beside you on the sand, all of them certain they won't quit. Within weeks, 151 of them will walk up to a bronze bell, ring it 3 times, and disappear forever. The instructors don't care who you were before this. Degrees, records, reputation, none of it survives contact with that beach. What they want to know is simpler than that. How long before you break? And they start finding out immediately. 6 miles through soft sand in boots that turn every step into a battle. 3 miles swimming in the Pacific with fins that slowly strip the skin from your heels. Then you and your boat crew lift a 90-kilogram log above your heads and carry it until someone's arms fail. And here's the rule you'll never forget. If one man drops his end, everyone starts over. The strongest guy in your class, the one who did 100 push-ups without breathing hard, rings that bell on day 9. He sets his helmet down in the growing row of helmets left by men who stopped. 3 metallic strikes. The sound travels across the entire beach. Each hit means the same thing. I'm done. The instructors put hot coffee and donuts right next to the bell, so the men who quit sit there warm and comfortable while you keep suffering in the cold. That detail is not an accident.
Here's something I want you to think about, and drop in the comments. If you were standing on that beach, what do you think would be the moment that breaks you? The cold, the sleep deprivation, or something else entirely? Keep that thought. We're going to come back to it. 3 more men ring out before lunch, but none of that prepares you for what comes next. Hell Week. 5.5 days, 4 total hours of sleep. Not per night, 4 hours across the entire week. It begins on Sunday at midnight with explosions, freezing water hoses, and instructors screaming contradictory orders simultaneously. You never stop moving. You cover more than 300 kilometers on foot. You carry inflatable boats over your head until the skin on your scalp separates from the bone beneath it. You sit in the January Pacific until you're shaking so violently that the man next to you genuinely wonders if you're having a seizure. By Wednesday, people start hallucinating. One of your teammates holds a full conversation with someone who isn't there. 75% of the original class quits during Hell Week. You don't. Not because you're tougher than the men who left. Some of them were stronger than you, faster than you, harder than you in every measurable way. They quit because their mind told them to stop, and they listened. You didn't listen. That's the only difference, and it's everything. But there's no celebration. No one congratulates you. All you've proven is that you don't know how to give up. And here, that only means one thing. You've passed the most basic filter. You haven't proven you're useful yet. 26 more weeks of qualification training follow, buds. Combat diving, land warfare, demolitions. Then they hand you the trident. And you immediately discover that you are nobody. You're an E4, the lowest rank an operational SEAL can hold. The men around you have deployments, combat, and scars. Your job is simple. Carry the heaviest gear, clean weapons that aren't yours, and learn by watching in silence. Your platoon has 16 men, led by an E7 with more than a decade of actual combat. At first, you think the stories about his ability to read terrain are exaggerations, until one night he tells your team that the compound across the street is occupied, based solely on the way a dog is barking. Seconds later, automatic fire erupts from inside. You file that away. Your first deployment lasts 6 months. Nighttime raids, doors knocked off their hinges at 2 in the morning. Long hours lying on a rooftop,
listening to gunshots echoing from the street below. Your first firefight lasts 11 minutes. When it ends, your hands shake for several minutes afterward. Your team chief notices. He doesn't say anything. His did too once. But in this team, no one stays the new guy forever. 2 deployments later, you're in E5, a second-class petty officer. Now you understand the rhythm. 18 months of training between every 6-month combat tour. Thousands of rounds at the range every week until reloading happens without thought, without decision, without awareness. You specialize. Every SEAL picks a skill set that becomes their identity inside the platoon. You become the breacher, the man who opens doors. Sometimes with explosives, sometimes with a battering ram, sometimes with a shotgun loaded with penetration rounds. You learn exactly how much C4 is required to blow a hinge without killing everyone on the other side.
The answer depends on the door type, the frame material, the distance of separation, and variables that can't always be accounted for. If you calculate wrong, people die. Your third deployment changes something inside you that doesn't change back. Your team extracts a high-value target. Intelligence says he's alone. He isn't. There's a woman and 2 children in the back room. The target grabs one of the children and holds the boy in front of him as a shield while he reaches for a weapon. Your teammate takes the shot. The bullet passes centimeters from the child's head. The boy is not physically harmed. You spend months turning that adverb over in your mind. Physically. As if that one word covers something you already know it doesn't cover. After that, the deployments blur into one another. Different country, different language, same mission. The same men cycling in and out through injury, promotion, or exit. And somewhere in that blur, you notice the work is changing you in ways you didn't anticipate. You're getting better at violence, and worse at everything else. You can clear a room in 3 seconds, and you can't sit through dinner with your girlfriend without mentally cataloging every exit and ranking every stranger's face as a potential threat. She asks if you're okay. You say yes, because that's what you were trained to say, and because the truth would require explanations you're not authorized to give, and emotions you're no longer certain you can still access. E6, Senior Operator, First-Class Petty Officer. You're now responsible for the day-to-day operations of your platoon, and for the new guys who remind you painfully of who you were 6 years ago. Eager, undertrained, and utterly convinced they can't die. You were exactly the same.
But you know things now. You've attended enough memorial ceremonies, carried enough flag-draped caskets, watched what happens when adrenaline overrides judgment. An operator from your 2nd platoon took a corner too fast during a raid and walked into a burst of automatic fire. His body armor stopped most of the rounds, but one bullet found the gap beneath his armpit. He bled out in 4 minutes, while the medic worked and the rest of the team finished clearing the building, because the mission does not stop for casualties, not until the structure is secured. He was 24 years old. Now you're the one running the daily operations. Training schedules, equipment maintenance, readiness reports, paperwork that nobody pictures when they imagine what it means to be a SEAL. For every hour of combat, there are 1,000 hours of preparation. You enlisted to be a warrior. You've become an administrator who occasionally kicks in doors. And the transition is more disorienting than anything you expected, because you're starting to understand why it matters. Platoons that skip steps lose people. Your body is keeping a different kind of score. Knees that crack from thousands of parachute landings. A back that aches from years of carrying 35 kilograms across mountains and desert terrain. Partial hearing loss on the left side from a breaching charge that detonated too close. You tape your ankles, eat ibuprofen like they're breath mints, and tell the team medic you're fine. The medic knows everyone lies. E7, Chief Petty Officer. This is the most important rank in a SEAL team. Officers design operations.
Chiefs make them work.
16 men under your direct command, and the platoon commander is a lieutenant, 4 years younger than you and a full decade less experienced. He graduated from Annapolis. He's smart and driven, and no one has ever shot at him. Your job is to convert his plans into reality without getting anyone killed, while never making him feel like you're the one actually running the platoon, even though you are. When his maneuver scheme is going to leave the rear element caught in a crossfire, you pull him aside and explain it quietly. You've learned that young officers who don't listen to their chiefs end up in the news for the wrong reasons. The ones who do listen develop into something worth following. Then comes a deployment that matters in ways you can't fully describe afterward. A nighttime raid against a compound. The target is a bomb maker whose devices have killed 14 Americans over 6 months. Intelligence is solid, the plan is solid, everything goes wrong anyway. The entry point is barricaded. The breach fails on the first attempt. The target opens fire through the walls. One of your operators takes a round through the leg, the femoral artery nicked. You drag him behind cover and apply a tourniquet so tight he screams. You call in the quick reaction force and continue directing the assault while rounds punch through the plaster walls around your head. The target is killed. Your operator survives after 8 months of rehabilitation. The mission is classified as a success. You write the after-action report on the helicopter ride home, with his blood still drying on your gloves. No one will read it except personnel with the appropriate clearance. And somehow, that makes it heavier. Not the secrecy. The indifference of a world that will never know what that night cost. E8, Senior Chief Petty Officer. Fewer than 2,500 in the entire Navy, and in the SEAL community, a fraction of that. A selection board reviewed every evaluation, every deployment, every commendation, and every failure of your career, and decided you made the cut. Most candidates don't. You now coordinate training cycles, deployment schedules, and equipment for the entire command. You're the bridge between the commander's intent and the platoon chiefs who execute it. When the commander wants the truth, not the sanitized version that appears in reports, he comes to you. You deploy less frequently now, and when you do, you stand in tactical operations centers watching drone footage of raids you would have been leading 5 years ago. What surprises you is the envy. You miss the simplicity of it. Door, breach, clear, next room. Now everything is meetings, logistics, and risk assessments written for people in Washington who have never heard a shot fired in anger. And you've started attending a different kind of funeral. Not combat deaths. Suicides. 4 in the past 2 years within your extended community. One of them was a man you mentored from his first platoon. You taught him wind calculations for long-range shooting. You stood beside him at his wedding. He sounded fine 3 weeks before he died. He laughed about something his son had done. And you believed him. Because believing was easier than asking the harder questions. The ones you didn't ask because you were afraid of what the answers would demand from you. At the memorial, his mother looks at you as though you might be someone worth blaming. You have no answers. You just show up. Because showing up is what chiefs do.
You've been doing this for 20 years. The funerals weigh more now, not less. And the ones that weren't in combat are the ones that follow you home. E9, Master Chief Petty Officer, the highest enlisted rank in the United States Navy. Thousands of operators and support personnel across multiple teams. You're the senior enlisted advisor to a rear admiral, the voice of every enlisted sailor in the command. You sit in Pentagon meetings where people who have never worn body armor make decisions that will determine who lives and who doesn't. You testify before oversight committees using language that is carefully honest and strategically incomplete, because that's how the game works at this level. You sign letters of condolence. You review after-action reports, looking for the line between acceptable risk and recklessness. You sit in living rooms with Gold Star families and look at photographs of men you sent into situations where dying was always a realistic outcome. Sometimes, a mother asks whether her son suffered, You tell her no. You don't always know if that's true. Your body is a catalog of accumulated damage. 2 knee replacements, a vertebra fused in your lower spine, tinnitus so constant and complete that you've genuinely forgotten what silence sounds like, a shoulder rebuilt with titanium after a fast rope insertion went wrong on your 8th deployment. 25 years in, married twice. The first marriage ended because of the work. The second survived because she was a nurse. She understood broken people and didn't require you to pretend to be whole. She sits with you on the nights when the dreams come back. She doesn't ask what you dreamed. She makes coffee and stays beside you until your breathing slows.
She's the reason you haven't become one of the statistics whose funerals you keep attending. You know that. You tell her sometimes. Not often enough. The ceremony is small. A team room in the Naval Special Warfare Complex in Virginia Beach. 50 people. No politicians, no generals, no public affairs officers. Just operators and chiefs. The men who crossed the same doors you did and came out the other side. Your commander reads a citation that describes your career in language that is technically accurate and emotionally insufficient. 11 deployments, 9 combat rotations, a Silver Star for carrying a wounded teammate 400 meters under fire to an extraction point while returning fire with your secondary weapon. The citation doesn't mention that you were wounded yourself. You didn't notice until the adrenaline dropped and the medic pointed at the blood running down your arm. They assemble a shadow box, your trident, your rank insignia, your patches, your coins, your career reduced to objects behind glass. You take a contractor job because they want your security clearance and your contacts, and they pay 3 times your military salary. The work is adequate. It is not the same. Nothing will be. Your body wakes you at 5 every morning because 28 years of muscle memory doesn't understand retirement. You run slower now, with a knee brace, with headphones turned up loud enough to drown the ringing that never stops. You stay connected to the community. Young operators call asking about deployments, marriages, and the darkness that settles in during the quiet months between rotations. You tell them that the trident is the most important thing they'll ever earn, and the most dangerous thing they'll ever carry, because it becomes your entire identity if you let it. Some of them hear you. Most of them nod politely and return to the team room, because they're 26 years old and they're invincible. You were the same. You tell them anyway. Right now, somewhere in Coronado, a new class is forming on the beach. 180 candidates standing in the pre-dawn dark, staring at a bronze bell, swearing silently they will never touch it. They've watched the documentaries, they've read the books, they dream about the trident. They have no idea what it costs. They don't know about the doors coming down at 2 a.m, or the split-second decisions that will replay in their minds for decades. They don't know about the marriages that won't survive, about the 4th deployment, and the children who draw family portraits without their fathers in them. They don't know about funerals for friends who made it through combat, but couldn't survive the silence that followed. They don't know about veterans' waiting rooms, and titanium joints, and the hum that never stops, and the nights spent walking the perimeter of a suburban house, searching for threats that don't exist. They don't know that the trident pin will become the heaviest thing they'll ever own. Heavier than the body armor, heavier than the rucksack, heavier than the teammates they'll carry toward helicopters under fire. All they know right now is that they won't ring the bell. They're standing on that beach, 180 hearts pounding, 180 minds convinced they're different, that they'll be the ones who make it. Most of them won't.
The bell will ring again and again in the weeks ahead. The rows will thin. The beach will empty. And the 30 or 34 or 28 who refuse to touch that bell will earn the trident. They'll become the most capable warriors on the planet. And they'll become strangers to the people who love them. Ghosts inside their own lives, carrying classified memories and bodies that break down decades ahead of schedule. That is the deal. Nobody prints it on the brochure. And somewhere on that beach right now, the next one is already deciding he'll be different.